All right, so my name is Adam Wong. I'm with Rockstar Workforce, and today's session is emotional intelligence in the workplace. And I am hoping to share some tips, some techniques, some insights, and to help you with your EQ and to make you a little bit more effective. As you know, this skill, it is a life skill. It's not just a workplace skill, but we are slanting today's webinar a little bit more towards the workplace, but there will definitely be some life skill stuff that comes in throughout the discussion. So what to expect, here's what we have in store for you. Here are some talking points. You can think of this as the agenda, so to speak. First off, looking at the impact of stress. So what's the impact of stress and your emotional triggers? What are emotional triggers? Or those of you who have already gone through one of our EQ programs, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But those of you that haven't, you will learn all about those. And we want to discuss how does stress impact these and how do the triggers impact your ability to manage your emotions and impact the emotions of other people. We'll then dive into some solutions. So what can you do in the real world any given day to try to minimize some of these triggers, but also to try to overcome what they do to you and how they make you feel? And then also some longer term strategies. So we don't just want to share some quick fixes. We want to share some longer term strategies that you can implement in order to reduce your stress over time, which in turn will make it easier for you to manage your emotions. And again, those of you that have gone through our EQ programs in the past, we have some new stuff for you. So don't think this is just a review or refresher of what you've already seen. There's actually plenty of new stuff for you today. And then the power of connecting with people through empathy. So really trying to double down on this behavioral trait of empathy. It's one we continue to see over and over and over when we're working with leaders, but also people across all levels of organization. It's their inability to connect with people and truly understand where they're coming from. And we want to take a double dive into empathy. And then ultimately, that'll help you develop stronger relationships and then communicate more effectively. So we'll share some very specific tactical approaches to communicating more effectively, especially in those kind of tense situations when you're trying to help someone else's emotions. So have some real life practical examples of what you can try. And then we will wrap up with giving you a sneak peek at something we're super excited about. So more on that in just a little bit. So we're going to start by giving you a little insight into me. And there's a couple of reasons. So those of you that have already gone through a program of ours, this is nothing new to you except for new pictures and new slide. And in fact, we ask you guys to do the same in our in-person sessions. We ask you to share a little bit about who you are with the rest of the group. And there's a couple of reasons why we're going to do this. First off, this is all about emotional intelligence. And the more you can connect with people, the easier it is to build relationships with them, to foster trust, to have open communication. So what better way to start today by sharing a little bit about who I am, who we are, and who my family is. You get to get to know me a little bit more, so I'm not just some stranger across the screen from you. So get to know me. This is my family. A few different pictures on the right-hand side. Let's see, that first one is just this last Christmas. We were in our new house for a month at that point. So that was an awesome, memorable Christmas. The middle picture is from Cabo a couple years ago. What you cannot see is that was the craziest photo shoot ever. We were right there on the beach, and our little son Hudson there was an absolute handful. You may notice my shirt. It looks like it's kind of like a shade of green. It's actually wet. It's soaking wet from me chasing Hudson into the water over and over and over. But super great memories. And then that bottom one, that was summer vacation last year. And so I guess we're all about taking pictures on vacations, right? So that's my family. My wife, Amber, also a business partner, we've been together for about 18 years. And we have two little ones, Hudson and Harper. Hudson will have a cameo appearance in a little bit for a different reason, not being so cute, but rather how he impact our emotions. And maybe some of you can relate to that. Educational background, my formal education, I got my associate's degree from Paradise Valley Community College. I think we do have a few folks from the community colleges on here today, so welcome. And then my bachelor's degree from NAU and got my master's from GCU. And a career. Up until 2011, did a variety of kind of roles, variety of jobs, always trying to strive to get a promotion, be a supervisor, be a team lead, be a manager. But I'm just going to start 2011 for you folks. It's really when I really got into the people industry. So 2011, went to work for a company called TTI Success Insights, who will also come up in a little bit. And at the core, what they do is they help companies with their people. They create assessments and tools and technology to help understand people better. So you can hire the right people, coach the right people, develop the right people. And then I was there for 7 years. And actually, Amber spent some time there as well. And then in 2017, 18 time period, I really had that itch to start Rockstar Workforce and actually go out into the companies and help the companies by implementing some of the tools we had it from TTI, but also create some of our own intellectual property, hence what some of the stuff you'll see today. And so we started the business in 2017. Amber joined shortly after. And today what our business solely focuses on is helping people, all of you that are on here, develop real world leadership skills. So things that are very practical and actionable. And we do most of that through in-person group sessions. And then we also have some virtual offerings, which you guys will see. All right, enough about me. Let's keep on going. So let's talk about EQ. So what is emotional intelligence? So some of you already have maybe a pretty good grasp on what it is. Maybe some of you have gone through one of our certification programs, but those of you that haven't, here's a definition for you. And we want to look at it in two distinct elements. So number one, self. So looking at yourself. So recognize your own levels of emotions, understand your own emotions, but then also be able to manage them. So it's all about you at first. And then we want to look at the other side, which is other people. So can you recognize the emotions of other people? Can you understand them, understand where they're coming from? Can you pick up on their cues, the signs that they're sending you? And then do you understand how to influence their emotions? So that's the one that's different between the self and others, that last piece of influencing. Can you influence the emotions of other people in a positive way? It's very easy to influence people in a negative way, but can you do it in a positive way? Ask them the right questions, say the right thing, use the right tone of voice, the right volume, the right eye contact. These are all techniques you can use in order to really make someone feel warm, feel comfortable. And it's a tough skill to master. Very, very difficult, but we will touch on that. All right, so EQ versus IQ, kind of a common question we'll get is like, what's more important? Do I need to be the smartest person or the most emotionally intelligent person? It's like, well, let's fall back on Dr. David Caruso, who's a thought leader in EQ, and see what he has to say. It is important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It is not the triumph of heart over head. It's a unique intersection of both. Okay, so it's a balance, right? So it's having the ability to not only manage your emotions, but also be that lifelong learner who wants to continue to learn things. You need to be able to have the technical skills and understanding of your job, of your career, to be able to sit at that table and provide good input. But you also need to be able to influence people, build relationships, communicate effectively, empathize with them. And these are all traits of emotional intelligence. So our philosophy is let's have a balance of both. So for today, of course, we're kind of double down on EQ, but we definitely need to have a nice balance of both. One more gentleman I wanted to introduce you to, if you haven't already heard of him, Daniel Goleman. He is thought of as many as the original thought leader of EQ, and he really brought it into mainstream, especially mainstream work environments in the 90s. This is one of his books, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. It's a good read. He has several others. He has a variety of lengths too. So if you want to read a short book, he has ones that are like 30, 40 pages, a lot easier to read. This one's one of his first ones, a bit longer. But I want to hone in on the stat here. 90% of the difference between star performers and average performers in leadership positions is EQ. This really goes right back to the previous slide of you need to have both. So you can't just be the smartest person in the room. You can't just have 25 years of experience in that role and expect to have people respect and follow you and be inspired by you. No, you actually have to be able to manage your emotions well and influence the emotions of other people. And the research shows that if you have this, you're going to have an upper hand on many others. And it's just a good life skill to have. All right, so hopefully now you're with me that you say, okay, I agree. We need to have this. It's important. So now let's talk more about it and get into it. So now let's talk about the not so fun side, the impact of stress and your emotional triggers and what it has on your daily life. And in our longer sessions, we'll start to peel back some of your triggers and start to help you identify what are the triggers, what gets you going, what gets you emotionally charged. And then, hey, let's try to create some solutions to overcome these or at least reduce these. Today, we're not going that deep, but we at least think it's important enough to talk about the triggers and hopefully put you on the right path to identifying what those are. So what are your emotional triggers? There's endless triggers, endless examples of triggers. Here are some of the common ones represented by these icons here. Getting stuck in traffic, that might be a trigger. Getting cut off in traffic, which I'll use as an example in a moment here. Maybe your numbers are going down, or maybe they're going up. You're growing so fast, you can't keep up with the capacity at work, and you're working 60, 70 hours a week, and this becomes a trigger. How about the email inbox? Anybody else? The email inbox, if it gets over a certain number, you start to get a little bit anxious, maybe fearful. What's your day going to look like? Maybe it's being sick is one of yours. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's a friend. It's a coworker. So people can definitely be triggers. Maybe it's that meeting that pops up on your calendar every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Whatever your triggers are, it's important to recognize them, identify what they are, so then you can try to prevent them or at least be aware of them. If you can't prevent them, try to be aware of them, be emotionally ready for them. All right, so identify what your triggers are. All right, so let's stick with this idea of a trigger, and want to introduce you to a pretty important concept that we always take some time to discuss in our programs. And it's starting on the bottom left corner where you see emotional trigger. And to explain this diagram, I'm going to use the example of getting cut off, which I just referred to. So for some of you, that's definitely a trigger. If it's not a trigger, I think you're crazy. But so let's say you're driving in traffic and it's not busy. There's not a whole lot of traffic on the road. But for whatever reason, there's this one car that drives right in front of you and then hits the brakes. And you look around and there's like nobody around. Like, why did they do this? They didn't need to do this. That may be a trigger for you. Okay, so let's think that you're in the car. This happens. Who knows? Maybe it happened to some of you this morning. It happens, and then what are you going to do? That's where your EQ kicks in. So I don't need you to memorize all these words, but at least memorize two concepts that I'll point out. So you get triggered by getting cut off. This enters your sensory thalamus part of your brain, and you have two options. Make this very easy: the long route and the short route. So the short route, what do you think that is? The short route is you just reacting. It's your amygdala, that's a little circle on the right-hand side, kicking in. Now, the amygdala is the fight or flight response. So in this case, you may fight, or you may pull up next to the person and give them the bird, or maybe you go up right behind them and honk your horn. Whatever that reaction is, that is using your amygdala to make a quick decision. And when you're using that amygdala, it's not allowing you to really rationalize and think of consequences of your actions. Now, I don't want to, and the amygdala isn't always a bad thing. It actually can be a very good thing, like life-threatening situations when you need to just respond. So don't think it's always bad, but sometimes it can be bad. You can get hijacked. So let's go the long route. What does the long route do? Well, the longer route allows you to use your sensory cortex, which is the part of your brain that allows you to rationalize, make decisions, think about the consequences of, if I do this, what's going to happen? If I go up and go right behind this person, are they going to slam on their brakes? Will I hit them? If I pull up next to them and cut them off, what are they going to do? That's the sensory cortex is doing. So it's getting you to think through your thoughts. So ultimately, you're going to make a decision. That's going to take us down to the response. So what's your decision going to be? So as we coach EQ, we often talk about this model and we say, hey, make it easy. Just try to take a few extra seconds before responding or before reacting and try to use sensory cortex. So how do you do that in practice? Take a deep breath, take a moment, reflect on the situation in front of you and think before you act. All right, so let's see if we can get that habit of using that long route. All right, so now in the theme of self-awareness, we're going to do a little activity we do in all of our sessions. And we're going to take your emotional temperature. For those who've never done this before, let me give you the brief explanation. So I'm going to ask you to take your emotional temperature right now on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being cool, calm, you're not really emotionally charged. Maybe you're even positive, you're kind of in a good mood, and you're focusing right now on this session. A 10 would be someone that's emotionally charged. Maybe you had a really rant morning and you had multiple triggers occur throughout the morning and you can't even sit here and think straight. Maybe you don't even hear me explaining this because you're so high. All right, so let me go ahead and launch this poll, and I'm going to ask each of you to go ahead and reply to this. It's the emotional temperature. It should pop up on your screen in just a second. All right, so if you can, should be on your screen now. Go ahead and where are you on a scale of 1 to? There should be 10 options. So if you have to scroll down to see all options, go ahead and do that. Good. Looks like almost over half have already completed it. Keep on going. Keep on going. So we have 75% done. Keep on going. Almost everybody. All right. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we got 83% of you. That's not bad. 86%. There we go. Okay, end the poll. I want to share the results with you so you can see what we're working with. Okay, so can you see all these? All right, so I think you can see all of them. So what's the highest number? A 3. So 25% of us today are at a 3. So 3 is not bad, right? You're still here, but there's a little bit of something there. Many of you are in the 1s and the 2 range. So 27% are between 1 and 2. That's good. It's easy for you to sit here and focus. And then we get into the 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to ask you, any of you that are a 7 or an 8, if you wouldn't mind, you can do this anonymously. I'll just read off the screen here. If you wouldn't mind giving feedback as to why, like, was there something that happened? And the reason I want to share this, and we do this in our in-person sessions too, is because you're going to have triggers throughout the day, and you don't know when these triggers are going to happen. You also don't know when triggers are happening to other people. So things may be happening to people around you, but we don't know this because we're just encountering them as we go from phone call to phone call, from meeting to meeting. And we don't get to see, all the things that are happening behind doors or on their phones, on their technology. And let's see, Amber is messaging me. Remind people to use the Q&A feature. I'm sorry, chat is disabled for this. So the Q&A feature, if some of you wouldn't mind tossing something on there, I guess it probably can't be anonymous. But if any of your 7s or 8s wouldn't mind sharing kind of why did something happen this morning, and if not, it's okay. We'll keep going. But it's more important is recognizing that people around us are going to be at different emotional temperatures than we might be. And your ability to take your own emotional temperature is very important, but also try and pick up on the cues of other people. Thanks for sharing that one, Callie. So argument with my spouse this morning. Now, the argument with your spouse this morning, that could last for multiple hours. And a common question we get is, well, how long does it take that temperature to go back down? If I'm at like a 7 or an 8, how long will it take to go down to a 2, 3, or 4 or a 1? Typical occurrence like this could take 2 to 3 hours for an average person for one trigger. So if you have multiple triggers in the morning and those are just like stacking up upon each other, it might literally take the rest of the day to flush out those chemicals, flush out that cortisol so you can think clearly. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so I got one more. Tax docs. Tax docs don't quite understand. Newer business owner. So tax documents with constant interruptions, that could definitely get your emotional temperature up there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stop sharing this. Thanks for sharing that. And let's keep on going here. All right, so sticking with, self-awareness. Come on, here we go. So the core of emotional intelligence is built around self-awareness. If you don't understand your own motivations and behaviors, it's nearly impossible to develop understanding of others. So you got to start with yourself, right? So take care of yourself, pick up on what are your triggers, what's your emotional temperature, can you manage your emotions before you start helping other people? So what are the other factors? Here are the other factors. So we've talked a bit about self-awareness. We're then going to talk about self-regulation as well. And self-regulation in practice is your ability to control your emotions. So self-awareness is, are you aware of your emotions? Self-regulation is, can you control them? Then let's move down to the bottom half of this little dial here. And the bottom half, you're going to see the word social. So social awareness is your ability to pick up on the emotions of other people. So can you pick up on the cues that they're sending? Can you pick up on their emotional temperature? Can you read the room well? Those are all going to be indicators of someone who has developed social awareness. And then social regulation is, can you say the right thing? Can you ask the right question? Can you demonstrate empathy to get them to feel better, to leave the situation better than you found it? And then motivation is, what's your goal? What's your objective in these situations? So we're going to hit on each of those pretty quickly today, just so you have a general understanding. And we're already at 10:20, so I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. All right, let's keep on going. So before we go into self-regulation, let's talk about, what are some things you can do to take care of your stress. I have 4 examples of quick things every single person on this call today can do, assuming you have sun, unless it's super cloudy where you're at. But all of us can do these things any given day. Take a walk. 5 minutes can do wonders. Get outside and take a walk. I know a lot of us are in Phoenix. In the next few weeks, it's going to be getting pretty hot. So maybe we don't want to do the outdoor walk, but that's an option. Breathing techniques. Try the box breathing. There are other types of techniques as well. If you haven't even heard of the box breathing, here it is. 3 seconds in, 3 seconds hold, 3 seconds out, in through the nose. Hold for 3, out for 3. Do that about 3 times. Get some sun and quickly boost your mood, make you feel better. Try listening to music, try one of your favorite songs. And hey, you know what? You get extra bonus points if you do all 4 of these at the same time. Take a walk, practice some breathing, be outside and listen to music. You're going to feel great 5-10 minutes later. So those are things you can do almost any given day. All right, so now let's talk about some longer term strategies. So we think it's very important to take care of yourself for long term. So if you change your habits, you can improve your emotional intelligence. And maybe some of you didn't think you're going to be seeing this today, but yes, you are. In fact, we're starting to share this stuff more and more and more in our programs because we see the need to educate people and try to help them take care of themselves. So sleep, according to Whoop, which I'll talk about Whoop in a second, it's a 24/7 wearable, which you see right here on my wrist, which I'll show you my stats in a second. According to Whoop, only 14% of people's sleep habits prepare them for superior performance. So they're doing a ton of research in the space of superior performance, and they're seeing so many people aren't getting enough sleep, and they have some scary stats. Like if you lose 10% of sleep, that doesn't mean the next day you're going to be 10% worse. No, it's exponential. You might be 25, 35% like less attentive the next day. So just because you lose an hour of sleep doesn't mean you're a little less focused the next day. It'd be a lot less focused the next day. Exercise, close to an hour, 45, 60 minutes of exercise a few days a week. We all know this. This is nothing new to anybody on here. It's just a simple reminder, and it can really boost your energy, focus, and productivity. And then nutrition. I know we all know this as well, but proper hydration. 3/4 of a gallon of water, ounce per body weight. Use what measurement you want to use, but most people don't drink enough water. And then try to be on a balanced diet of non-processed foods. And this can improve your energy, your sleep, your emotional clarity. And even like snacking throughout the day. Try to have some healthy snacks, some blueberries, some nuts. When your energy is feeling low, rather than grabbing that 4th cup of coffee, how about you grab some blueberries and walk outside for a few minutes? That might help you. So just trying some different techniques that are more sustainable. All right, so this is a glance at my Whoop dashboard. So Whoop, as I mentioned, it's a wearable. You wear it 24/7. And even to charge it, you don't even take it off. You literally has a little attachment that goes on and it charges it. It takes a couple hours to charge. And what Whoop is trying to do is trying to give people better data to make you just more aware of your recoveries, how your body's feeling, how hard you can push yourself. Those are the two measurements there, strain and recovery. This is mine from Tuesday. So from 2 days ago, you can see my recovery is 96%. Full disclosure, that is the best my recovery has ever been. It's never been that high. So I'm definitely taking care of my body those couple days. Strain was pretty high. And then in the app, it's going to give me like coaching insight. It's going to say things like, hey, you recovered really well today, so you can push your body hard. But then the next day, it's going to look at my sleep. It's going to look at my resting heart rate, and it's going to give me advice on how hard I should push. So what does how hard push mean? It might mean exercising. It might mean how much stress I'm going to have that next day, because it does give me feedback on my stress levels in real time. I can pull up my app right now and look at what my stress levels are throughout the morning and like pinpoint certain times throughout the morning where it got heightened and lower. This is another just glance at the dashboard. And so it gives me a lot of insight. So those of you that are data junkies and you like this kind of stuff, I would encourage you to check it out. They just reduced their pricing. And if you're interested, it's about $20 a month is what it comes out to. The strap is free. And then you essentially pay for the membership and the data. So that's Whoop. There's other companies out there, of course, but they're ones that we like. Let's look at the next two dimensions of EQ. So social awareness and social regulation. So that's on the other side, right? It's looking at other people. So I have a poll question for you. And as far as timing goes, in case anybody has to get off at 10:30, I'm probably gonna go a few minutes over, but I encourage you to stick around because I have a really good story that might help you, and especially with empathy. All right, so poll question. What one behavior can have an immediate impact on your emotional intelligence? So let me go ahead and launch. Oh, come on. Where's my mouse? There we go. Let's go ahead and launch this poll. And I lose my poll. There it is. Sorry, you know how this goes. There we go. What skill? Launch. Here it comes. So you're gonna have 4 options here. So what behavior can have an immediate impact on your emotional intelligence? Is it to hide your emotions, always say what's on your mind, be empathetic towards others, or avoid conflict at all costs? There's some tricky ones, aren't they? Like I was hoping to create some that are like, they're like, I might want to choose that one sometimes, but I might want to choose this one other times. All right, about let's see where we're at. 75% have finished. Let's go ahead and share this with you. Share results. All right, so hide your emotions. Sometimes that is practical to hide your emotions. Always say what's on your mind. I would say sometimes you want to see what's in your mind. I would say not always, depends on the situation. Be empathetic towards others. I'm gonna say that's the winner for today. And then avoid conflict at all costs. No, 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 no. So those are you either joking or you do avoid conflict at all costs. It doesn't mean you need to, but it means you do it. And we talk about that quite a bit, is it's not necessarily healthy to avoid conflict at all costs. So I'm going to assume you guys are joking with that one. Empathy is the winner, right? So be empathetic towards others. So how do you do it? So how can you practice empathy? We want to share a story, and the story is meant to help demonstrate empathy a little bit. And I think it's a good story. Then now, warning, there is a sad picture ahead, right? So there's a sad picture coming your way. So here it is. Yeah, that's Hudson. That's our son Hudson a couple months ago. That's him crying, and you'll see ninja in training. He truly is a ninja in training. He's been in jiu-jitsu for a year and a half, and he thinks he's a little ninja. And so he's always jumping around the house. Full disclosure, he is not the best at putting his hands down when he falls. And he has fallen several times and unfortunately cracked a tooth. We got it fixed, cracked a tooth, got it fixed. And then a few months ago, he fell pretty hard late at night as we were telling him it's bedtime, and he was doing his ninja moves and he didn't get his hands down fast enough. So he hit his nose, hit his mouth. So yeah, sad, right? It's sad. We want to be empathetic towards him, but that's actually not the reason we chose the story. The story actually isn't really about Hudson. It's about the interaction that Amber and I had, because this happened at nighttime before bed. And the next morning, we had a 4-hour virtual training that I was facilitating. That's where the empathy piece comes in. So hang on to that. So a week prior to this incident, Hudson wasn't feeling well, and he was having a really hard time sleeping. So I went into his room a couple of times and trying to get him to fall asleep. And he's normally a great sleeper, and it wasn't happening. So I ended up laying in his bed with him, fell asleep for a few hours. And we don't co-sleep with our kids. They've been on their own for since they're very young. So anyhow, I slept through the night with them. My back was hurting. I was super sore the next day. I didn't sleep well. I had low energy, and it sucked. It was a crappy night. So fast forward to this event. Amber was checking on him throughout the night multiple times because he hit his head kind of hard, and we wanted to check on him. He wasn't sleeping. He was uncomfortable. So Amber ended up sleeping in his room this night for several hours as I had an early morning session, a 7 a.m. start time. So let's fast forward to the morning, 7 a.m. start time. I'm on my 4-hour virtual training, and I'm in my home office, and Amber's up with the kids. And I can kind of hear them a little bit, getting ready. I hear Harper cry a little bit, Hudson yell a little bit. So on a break, I go out to the kitchen. I say, "Hey, how's the morning going? How's it going?" And she gives me this look on her face. I was like, "Oh, it's not good." She's like, "I'm exhausted. My body hurts. The kids are being crazy. I'm just trying to get them out of the house so it's quiet in here." So pause. All right, I have a couple options here. Let's go back to the sensory cortex stuff. I have a couple options. I could say I know it sucks. That's what happened to me last week when I had to go in his room and help him sleep throughout the night. I was tired the next day. My body hurt. It's crappy. But I had to go back into the office now and do my webinar. I could say that. And in fact, 3 years ago, I might have said that before I was truly trying to practice my empathy. And that's what many people would say. They would do like the one-upper, or they relate and add a little bit more and make it about themselves, not the person in front of them. But in this case, I've learned and I've practiced. So I said something to the effect of, "I'm sorry to hear that. I got 10 minutes. What can I do to help?" So just that different response. So I hearing her, acknowledging it, offering my support, that allowed her to grab a coffee, run away for a couple minutes while I kind of just wrangle up the kids for a moment. And then she comes back in a little more energized, and then I can hop back on the training. So that's just an example of how to practice empathy, and very tactfully, here's some ideas. Start with being present in the moment. So if someone is talking to you, really try to listen, understand where they're coming from, really try to pick up on how they're feeling, how it's impacting them. Put technology down. If you got a wearable on, this is not sending signs that you're listening, checking that watch, looking at your phone. Here are a few specific things to try saying. Say things like, "I'm sorry to hear that. How can I help? Is there anything I can do? How can I support you?" Just additional questions you can ask to try to practice your empathy. So those are some real life things to practice with anybody. It doesn't have to be your spouse. It could be a friend, a family member, a coworker, or it could be anybody. All right. So let's try to starting to wrap this up and say, hey, hopefully you found some value here. I'm glancing at the questions. I don't see any that are unanswered right now. So if you have more questions, throw them at me because I'm going to start to wind down a little bit. And I would say, hey, do you want to learn more about this idea of EQ? We got lots of options. If you want to take an EQ assessment, we have a great partner, TTI Success Insights. They have some of the best tools out there. And we provide every person in one of our programs with an EQ assessment. We have a variety of ways to get in touch with us. So we have our live in-person programs, and we offer these in a public cohort style. Like we have academies that we launch throughout the year. So if you're interested in learning more about what these academies are and how to enroll in one, please reach out to us. If your company wants to do a private program, we also offer private programs. But then here's the sneak peek into something that is currently being beta tested. So if you want to, take this emotional intelligence even deeper, this idea of developing emotional intelligence even deeper, whether you're an individual and want to get it, or if you're at a company and you want to get it for some of your team members, we have that option for you. And it's currently being beta tested. So we essentially took all of our course material that we do in person with, hundreds of people throughout the year, and we built it online. So you can sit down at your own pace and go through it online. But what's cool is the experience is very similar to in person. So if you can see you guys can see me, like this little box. We wanted to make it a hybrid approach. So it's not just all online, but there's a physical component to it. So you get this box in the mail once you register. In that box, you're going to get some of our stuff, highlighters, pens, stickers, resources. But then there's workbooks that are for the session. So you get a full-on workbook for your session, a full printed one. You're going to get an assessment that goes along with it. So it's not just online; it's more of a hybrid approach. We're then going to have group calls, group meetings that allow you to interact with other people, and also have access to me and my team to answer questions and kind of guide you through your process of developing your EQ. So for everybody on today, we have a special offer. This is the first time we've introduced it publicly. So we have a special offer for you. So if you're interested at all, I just want to learn more, not even commit to it, just want to learn more about it, go to our website and rockstarworkforce.com, go to the contact page. And on the contact page, you'll see I already checked the box that says Rockstar Academy Online. Just choose that one. We'll know what you're referring to, and we'll reach out to you. If you're interested in other programs like our academies or a custom program, by all means, do that too. But then you can also email us. You can email me directly at adam@rockstarworkforce.com, email Amber at support@, and then we'll make sure we get back to you. So please ask any more questions you guys may have, but that's going to bring us towards the end of the session. I went a few minutes over. Sorry about that. Hopefully you still found some value and hope you enjoyed this. And again, we'll be sending you the recording. And any additional questions, if you guys have any questions, please throw them at me now. Otherwise, that's going to be a wrap for today. And I really thank you for being on here. I know your time is precious, and hope you have a good rest of your day.